there, here to help me pick my books. Hi guys, it's Lianne and welcome to my May TBR, otherwise known as the month that may end me. Like for good, I might not come back from this one, you guys. You see, May is wonderful for many reasons, the first of those being that this is month 5 of a 6-month book buying ban. That's right, 2 more months to go and then I can buy everything you guys have been telling me to buy for the past long time. It's before Christmas. This wish list stretches from before Christmas. Secondly, it is also month 5 of my year of readathons, and that means that I have stuck with a project for 5 whole months. Pat on the back, yay me. Oh, and of course I'm forgetting the most important one. We're halfway to Halloween, otherwise known as the Day of My People, and witchy vibes unite and my inner Winifred Sanderson and Granny Weatherwax can come out to play. All of that said, I'm still terrified of May, because not only am I coming off of a truly terrible reading month in April where I read one of my new favourite books of all time, but very little else. But also May is another month that I'm taking part in another readathon that's not mine. You know, the thing that I said I wouldn't do at the start of this year. I'm going to be taking part in the wonderful Ashley from A Frolic Through Fictions Do the Thing-a-thon. But you know, you just have to do the things that you said that you were going to do at the start of the year. We'll get to that in a minute. May is also the month in my year of readathons where I hand control of my reading over to you guys. And I have a deep suspicion that although you love me dearly, you are not going to be kind. So let's get on with it, shall we? Let's find out just how screwed Lianne is this month. It is the inevitable curse of a booktuber that no matter what books I pick to read that month, you guys always think that I should have picked something else. Usually that is meant in a completely kind way. It's either because you want me to get to your favourites or because there's new books on my shelves that you're really excited for my opinion on. Sometimes it's because you've heard me mention a book months ago that I haven't got to yet that you're desperate for me to read because you think it'll be my new favourite thing. So I decided that for 1 month of my year of readathons I was going to let you guys decide what I read, but there's no fair way to let everybody pick their favourite book or their most anticipated book, and so I ended up falling back on a tried and tested system. I asked you all on Instagram for 2 numbers. The first number from 1 to 8 was all of my bookshelves, including the one downstairs and my 2 TBR trolleys pushed together. And the second number was, of course, the number of a book. I did not anticipate, however, the amount of response that I would get when I said to you guys, come and choose my TBR. And so the only way for me to choose which of those numbers that I go with is also with a random number generator. So not only are you guys randomly choosing my books, but I am randomly choosing the people who randomly choose my books. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's all gonna work out. Let's get started. Okay, let's find out who's going to be my first torturer. The first random number is 2, 4, 6, 8, 29, 30. Comment 30 is from Steph from Novelty Corner. She is one of my favourite and kindest humans in the entire world. Steph has asked for bookcase 6 and book 14. So bookcase 6 is this one here. It's my Agatha Christie shelves along with a lot of other cosy mysteries, and it has like Lockwood and Co and things like that on the bottom. But 14 is absolutely, definitely going to be a Poirot book, so let's go find it. It turned out to be one of my favourite Poirots in the world, and it is Murder in Mesopotamia. This seems like a totally random one, but I guarantee you that if you have ever seen any Poirot adaptations ever, particularly the ones with David Suchet in them, then you will probably have seen a version of this one. Not only do I love the mystery in this one, but I also love the story behind why it was written. You guys know that I'm a massive Agatha Christie buff. I know a lot about her. I'm very obsessed with her writing and why she wrote things. Agatha Christie's second husband, Max Malloman, was an archaeologist, and one of the reasons that she was so obsessed with archaeology, she fell in love with him him 20 years before she married him when she was in Mesopotamia on one of his digs, and so this book is very, very vivid. The Poirot novels and Agatha Christie's writing are really known for their characters and the like speedy way that she builds up this cast of hundreds and individualizes them all for you. They're not really known for like florid writing or hugely setting the scene. She did that kind of writing under some other aliases, but this one is very, very evocative. So in Murder in Mesopotamia, Poirot is planning on heading to this dig in Iraq when he gets a communication from Amy Leatherer, who is working on the dig herself and who thinks that something is very badly wrong with the lovely Louise, who is the wife of the head archaeologist. There has been something odd going on at this dig for a long time, but Amy now reports to Poirot that Louise is starting to suffer with horrific hallucinations. And she's worried that out there all on their own in the desert, tensions in the group are going to spill over and somebody is going to end up dead. I mean, it's a Poirot novel. If nobody ends up dead, it is somewhat disappointing. So thank you, Steph, for putting this one on my TBR. This is a pleasant surprise. First one for this month's stack. Not as bad as I thought it would be. It is probably all downhill from here. Okay, let's find out who is next in charge of my bookish fate with the following random number. So 58 was Lula Rocket, and they have given me bookcase 5 and book 121. Bookcase 5 is mostly thrillers, with the bottom two shelves being horror, and I think 121 will land somewhere in between. Let's go find out. So 121 was actually like way further down that bookcase than I thought, but I think it's because I've got a lot of really chunky hardbacks right in the middle of it that take up a lot of real estate, and so we ended up in my horror shelves, which TBH wasn't that unhappy with, because I ended up with the Twisted Ones. The Twisted Ones is a really weird niche blend of my particular interests. This is about Mouse, and her dad asks her to go to her grandmother's house, which is a quite remote house in the woods, and clear it out after she has died. Mouse doesn't really think this is going to be a huge problem. She goes on a road trip, she takes her dog, but when she gets to her grandmother's house, she discovers that her grandmother was a hoarder. The entire house is filled from top to bottom with stuff, and it's going to take a lot longer to clean out than she first thought. But while she's cleaning it out, she's delighted to discover some of her granddad's old journals, and she sits down of a night to read them. Except that what begin as mundane everyday journals slowly descend into chaos and fear and a very ominous feeling that Mouse and her dog are not alone in the woods. I am so very excited for this one because it has a single person horror. That's one of my favourite things, when it's just one person all alone trying to find out the mystery. It's set in some creepy woods, which I really, really love. I love me some woods. It's one of the only things that's made me really, really sad to be inside all this time, because I like being inside. My house is cozy. But most of you guys also know that hoarding is one of my niche areas of interest. It's a thing that has run in my family. It has thankfully stopped the trend with me, but I'm very interested in the psychology of it, so to pair it with a horror novel makes me just delighted. Thank you, Lula Rocky, you picked a really good one. Okay, but now I'm even more scared because that was like 2 good books out of 5. Surely there's going to be one in there that I don't want to read sometime. Okay, let's have another random number. Whose fate is my hands in now? Okay, so 192 was books, baking and blogging, and they asked for shelf 2 and book 122. Now, shelf 2 is the first little bookshelf behind me, and it is one that contains quite a lot of series. I knew that this was inevitably going to happen because in order to give you guys the ability to pick from my whole big bookcases, I had to give you like 1 to 300, which is the amount of books that's on the big one. So these 2 shelves in the middle here contain the books that I have not read on these shelves, and I'm literally gonna just have to keep counting in a circle until I come back to 122. I could be there for a while. Wish me luck. ended up with a doozy. the gap, what's missing behind me. This is The Once and Future Witches by Alix E. Harlow, and while it is absolutely stunning and the plot sounds amazing, it is also a brick. So I'm going to call it, and I'm going to say that's our first that's nice book of this stackage. How many pages is this anyway? 516, it is 516 pages. Thank you ever so much for choosing this one. This is also one of those books that I never feel like I give an adequate description for, so I am just going to read you the synopsis in all of its glory. I am terrified and I am terrible, I am fearful and I am something to be feared. In 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild, dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amarath and Beatrice Belladonna, join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces that will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. This is the kind of book that I would kill to read the audiobook for. Can somebody just employ me to read an audiobook about witches? I will do that gladly. This is a curiously beige stack so far, however. People, can we have a bit of colour, please? And for our fourth potentially sacrificial offering, we have this number. 53 is Amber in Bookland, and they would like Bookcase 1, Book 72. Bookcase 1 is the one behind me, and it is primarily non-fiction, so memoir and true crime, and then at the very bottom there are graphic novels. So let's go and see together what Book 72 is. Well, it had to happen, didn't it? Book number 72 is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Gottlieb. This book was on my most intimidating books list. You guys are so lucky that I have integrity and I don't rig these games. Everything in my entire body was just like, just lie, don't tell them, don't tell them they don't know. Can I have another book, any other book, just pick another book. But I couldn't because my honesty bone hurt, and so here we are. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone is about a therapist who ends up in therapy herself. One day her husband just up and walks out. They got married on the understanding that he was happy to be a father to her already very small and very existing child, and then one day he decides he doesn't want to be anymore, doesn't want to be a dad, and so he just leaves. He leaves their perfect marriage that she thought was great, and he completely shatters her world. All of her faith in humanity and her ability to trust just goes, and her colleagues tell her that maybe she should talk to someone. And so this book, it is a combination of her experience in therapy and her stories about giving therapy to her clients with this new information in her life in the background. The thing that's most intimidating about this book is that technically it's my second try. I picked this up on audiobook originally and the audiobook was awful. The narrator was just really flat. It took me nowhere, and that was a problem because this is a memoir and I need it to take me to a place of emotions or I'm just not going to stay there. And so it's one of those where it's like I wanted to like it so much that I bought it again. And not only have I bought it a second time, but it's this big. This is a very big book. It is significantly longer than it looked on audiobook. And the font is not that large. So yes, here we are. Yes. Love this journey for me. And our last champion of my pain is... Okay, so 41 is a username I couldn't pronounce, so I looked it up, and it's Annika. Nice to meet you, Annika. And Annika would like Bookcase 3 and Book 63. So Bookcase 3 is the one with the dinosaur on top behind me, and that has right now a lot of middle grade books and then a lot of sci-fi at the bottom of it. I say right now because the reason a second cart has appeared in my library is because all of my middle grade books are going to live on the cart to allow my fantasy collection to spread out slightly. Let's go and find out what Annika picked. finally picked a sci-fi that I haven't thought of in a really long time, and it's probably well overdue that I picked it up. This is The Stars Are Legion by Kameron Hurley, and it's been so long since I've had it on my shelf and haven't picked it up that I cannot remember what the synopsis is about. So let's you and I discover together. Somewhere on the outer rim of the universe, a mass of decaying world ships known as the Legion is travelling the seams between the stars. Here in the darkness, a war for control of the Legion has been waged for generations with no clear resolution. As worlds continue to die, a desperate plan is put into motion. Zan wakes with no memory, prisoner of people who say they are her family. She is told she is their salvation and the only person capable of boarding the Mikoshi, a world ship with the power to leave the Legion. But Zan's new family is not the only one desperate to gain control of the prized ship. Zan finds that she must choose sides in a genocidal campaign that will take her from the edges of the Legion's gravity well to the very belly of the world. Zan will soon learn that she carries the seeds of the Legion's destruction and its possible salvation. But can she and the band of cast-off followers she has gathered survive the horrors of the Legion and its people long enough to deliver it? Okay, it took me a little while to remember this synopsis, right all the way until the end, but I remember that the reason that I was recommended this is because it is sci-fi in space with found family. It's also very matchy-matchy for my new hair. So thank you very much, Annika, for choosing this one, which is another massive brick of 400 pages. Well, there we go. There are my 5 books for my Stack It for the month. If you're new here, Stack It is a game that I play with my Year of Readathons TBR. I only pick 5 books and I pick them all from physical books on my TBR. The order that they are picked in is the order that I have to read them in, so this is the order that I will be reading them in. The order that you guys picked them in. And if I want to skip any of the books on my TBR, I have to unhaul them, because if I'm not in the mood for them right now, chances are I'm never going to be in the mood for them. Which, let's be perfectly honest, this one is in danger of. Well, now that that's over, let's look at the other things that you're making me do this month. Over on my reading room tier on Patreon, we have a new poll every month where you guys get to pick one of the books that I will be reading, and this month it was a runaway success. Apparently everybody wants me to read this particular book, and so here it is. This is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. It is adult sapphic fantasy with a lot of death in it, so basically it was written for me. And I'm gonna just read you the synopsis of this one, because quite honestly I can't do any better. So The Unbroken says, Terrain is a soldier. Stolen as a child and raised to kill and die for the Empire, she owes loyalty only to her fellow conscripts. But now she has been sent back to her homeland to stop a rebellion, and the ties of blood may be stronger than she thought. Luca needs a turncoat, someone who can sway the rebels towards peace, while Luca focuses on what really matters, winning back her throne. Through assassinations and massacres in bedrooms and war rooms, Terrain and Luca will haggle over the price of a nation. But some things aren't for sale. I mean, quite honestly, when I say that you guys are making me do a thing this month, my patrons have picked amazingly well. This is so high up on my TBR that I tried to sneak it in last month, but last month was the month of reading almost nothing. Except for a book that I shall obsessively tell you about from here to eternity, starting in my wrap up shortly. And next up this month, more things that I did not plan for but are happening and I'm going to do. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Do the Thingathon is happening in May. I'll leave the announcement video down below with all of the dates and further information. I'm just kind of obsessed with how it sounds. Do the Thingathon. It's like almost forcing you to think about your goals. Do the Thingathon. Because that is indeed what Do the Thingathon is about. It is about looking back at the goals that you set for your reading at the start of the year and trying to finish them. In my case, of course, all of my goals were reading related, and having looked back at some of them, I will be abandoning them. In all seriousness, I think it's fine that your goals evolve, because what's important to you at the start of the year might not be important to you 6 months later. But the goal that really stuck out to me, the goal that I thought, I should probably do something about that, was to try and finish 3 series. Given that just recently, by pure coinkydink, I posted a video about all of my unfinished series, it's probably the universe giving me a hint. I'm going to try and finish 2 series for Do the Thingathon, which means catching up with a couple of books. The series that are most pressing for me are The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter series. I was meant to read book 2 last month and I just didn't get it done. This series only has 3 books in it, so I could potentially read 2 books in the month and finish it off. The second series is a new one that I have just started, the Bone season, but it only has 4 books in the series, so potentially I could read 3 books and finish this one off. Then we have got the Sweetpea series by CJ Skuse. I only have the most recent one in this currently 3-book series to read, and I could read that one, but my entire brain is like, I think you need to reread the whole series before you dive into the last book, so that could end up with me reading 3 books. Although it might be a good fit because I like the audiobook narrator for these books and might switch to them on audiobook. And then finally I have the Wayward children's series by Shannon and McGuire. I have these 2 still to read. I can't remember the names for them now, and there is one that comes out every year, so I would quite like to be up to date with this series. So for the week that Do the Thingathon is on, I am going to be trying to read these. Wish me luck, send me good vibes, cross your fingers, send me chocolate, all of those things. All of the things that will help, because when I said that this month is probably going to finish me off, I meant it. And Do the Thingathon is probably going to be the maraschino and cherry on top of my hell sundae. Now normally I would be the person who also has several mood reads on my TBR for this month, but I don't think I have room for them. I will probably sneak a book in here or there, and if I do, it's likely to be a graphic novel, so maybe I'll read Safe Sex, or I may restart the Morning Glories series because it's been a really long time since I read them and they're great. I also would like to carry on with the Shadow and Bone series because I would like to, you know, eventually get to see the show by the time that everybody spoils me for every episode. So I would be going on to Siege and Storm, and my brain is in a complete fantasy slash thriller mood right now, and that's all it wants to pick up. So there's a good chance that a couple of those books could like tumble onto my mood reader pile at the end. Essentially, I need to read more books in May than I have read for the entire year combined. Can I do it? Probably not, but I'm going to try, even if it kills me. So that's it, guys. That is all of my TBR for May. Thank you very much for participating in my torture. I will probably do another round of this towards the end of the year where I let you guys take over again. I might not use this system, I might use a different one, but I will let you know when it is coming. As always, if you have read any of the books that I have talked about today, please let me know what you think of them down in the comments. Also, let me know what is on your May TBR, and are you going to take part in Do the Thingathon? I really think that you should. Come along the journey with me. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up to throw my pain into other people's sidebars. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I do something like this to myself every month for your pleasure. And I'll speak to you all soon, guys. Bye! I'm not gonna lie, my brain just wants to read them, the ones in this Instagram picture. It just wants to read them, like right now. Can I just read them and leave everything else? Yes? Yes, yes? What do you mean no? You're so mean.